Go. Stand by. Hello, everybody, and welcome to... I'm just switching inputs now. I just realised I've left the... Oh, Gaz, can you switch that to HDMI 1? Welcome to Sonic Talk number 200, 300 even, and 19. There I was, all prepared, and then suddenly I wasn't. Gaz is now fiddling with the remote. I'll get that sorted out in a sec. Anyway, welcome to the podcast. We've got a visitor in studio today. We've got Gaz Williams, who's right there. I'll just give him his lower third as well. He gets everything. Look, he's in HD. Well, not really. You're not quite HD. You're in DV, but it's widescreen DV, and it's sort of real time, so you're not pixelated today. You'll be pleased to know. Gaz came down. You've been in the area.
Yeah, I'm just in a rehearsal process for a new project that I'm going to be playing with David Rhodes, who's Peter Gabriel's guitarist, and playing on David Rhodes' new album. Not on his new album, actually. So we're just going to be playing some shows in support of his new album, which is good. Playing bass, and that's with Jed Lynch on drums, a little trio, power trio. Jed Lynch is Peter Gabriel's drummer as well, so I feel very pleased to be playing with such good musicians.
Excellent. I worked with Jed Lynch. Jed did a spell with Goldfrapp.
Right.
So you're just kind of everybody's melding into one supergroup, aren't they?
How bizarre, yeah.
But yeah. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's great. He's a smashing chap and brilliant guitarist, and he plays lead guitar on one of my all-time favourite songs. So I was really blown away by that, and that's "Talk Talk." Life's what you make it.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that was...
Glad to hear it. Well, Gaz, that sounds like exciting times ahead. I'm glad you came in. Gaz has also brought in something for us to look at, but more on that later. But actually, I should, before I get going even further, is apologise, A, for last week not doing the Isotope competition after I teased it, and then I didn't. But that's okay, because we'll have one this week. And B, there was something else which I've forgotten I should probably apologise for, but I'll just apologise anyway, because I can't remember what it was, so there must have been something. But now I'm going to go to my remote guests. So over here we have Mr. Dave Spears live in his studio once again. How are you doing, Dave?
All right. It's hot in here.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? That's a Tweet song, I think, with that line in it, in case you were wondering.
That's too modern for me.
I think the next line of the lyric goes, "I'm going to take off all my clothes."
Okay, well...
No, it's all right. I wasn't suggesting that, but I just thought, anyhow.
Let's do the show naked.
Yeah, maybe one day that will happen. No, I'm not even going to put that out there, because that would be, wrong. So, Dave, anyway, glad to have you aboard. And how's the bandwidth holding up?
I don't know.
You're a bit pixely, but you're all right. You're kind of hanging in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've got an Ethernet plugged in and I'm on the wireless, so I'm trying to hog as much as I can. And I've told everybody, don't go near the broadband for the next hour. Yes.
Brilliant.
Get off my broadband.
Get off my broadband. Anyway, Dave, nice to have you aboard. And I'm sure I heard a little bit of keyboard before you started off there. Is that another tease with whatever it is that you can't tell us about?
Yeah, I'm not telling anyone about it. No, I'm making sounds for something.
Excellent. That sounds marvellous. Anyway, Dave, GeForceSoftware.com. So if you visit there every day, 10 times a day, then the chances are at some point you'll see what it is that Dave is doing that's new. And you'll get the hits up. See what I did there? I'm a genius in marketing, clearly. And Mark Tinley's over there in Bedfordshire. I got it right, nearly.
I am in Bedfordshire. I'm going to be moving to Somerset soon, though, because we've sold our house.
Oh, congratulations.
We've had an offer on it, which means it's got a sold sign outside. But apparently there's lots of paperwork or something. I don't know much about this.
I've never sold a house before. I bought one,
no.
but I never sold one. Don't know what it's like. There are people that deal with that sort of thing, right, Mark?
There are, yeah.
Excellent. So does that mean you're going to be looking down our neck of the woods?
My partner is dealing with it.
Excellent. That's the best kind of other
Yeah, the
people.
theory is that we're moving to Glastonbury. That's the theory. So we'll be in Somerset.
You know what? That is just such a fantastic link there, Mark, because you know what? Our first topic is about Glastonbury and festivals in general. I can't believe that you did that. That was just so generous of you there, Mark. Thank you very much. Of course, you must know that it's actually Glastonbury weekend. Glastonbury weekend, of course, being. I mean, I don't know about anybody else. I mean, I used to work there for 10 years. I was reminiscing because I went out to a party on Friday night, and there were lots of people talking about going to Glastonbury and when was their first time. I think mine was first time was 1981, and I remember approaching the site with. With my friend's dad's car and hearing this really loud music. It was Black Uhuru, big dub reggae act, when they used to have like a 50,000 watt PA system that just used to fire off in all directions. The good old days, I like to call them. Yes, and I thought I was really close, but I was actually still about 5 miles away. It was just so loud. So yes, Glastonbury is this weekend. In fact, if I show you here, this is the lineup. We've got there are so many stages now. It sort of gets a bit confusing. So, but I would like to say we've got Chic featuring Nile Rodgers on the West Holtz stage.
West Holtz stage.
I don't know what that is.
Jazz World stage. They got a bit snobby about using the word Jazz World. I think it's all a little bit Jazz World. So they called it West Holtz stage. I tried to form a campaign to get it called back to Jazz World Stage, because Jazz World Stage has been there for years and years and years. And then they changed it recently. Emily Evis, she's so indie. And indie are kind of really sort of like, Jazz World. So they changed it to West Holtz, which is the name of the field in the farm. And I think it just says nothing. You know, it just says more about indie kind of...
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a kind of automotive parts distribution network.
It's rubbish. Change it back to Jazz World Stage. Stop being so kind of... I don't know.
Don't fiddle with something if it ain't good.
Stupid. I hate all that indie kind of nonsense.
Well, that's funny because I've actually done I've done the sound on the Jazz World Stage a few times. I'd love to go down and see Chic. I think that is going to be possibly the gig of the festival. I've no idea. This is just a sort of poster that says who's on. Tom Tom Club. Ooh, C6 Steve as well. I saw some of it.
C6 Steve.
Awesome.
He's a sham, though, isn't he?
Oh.
I like him, but he's not. His backstory, he's like this hobo, and he's like talking, and he's meant to be like nearly 70 years old and all this.
He doesn't look 70.
It's all a load of rubbish. He was a music producer. He's just sort of created a sort of a pretend backstory. He's still really good and entertaining, but it's not true. I'd just like to find out where those hostilities go. What's wrong with creating yourself a performing persona? It's fine. It's fine. It's just it's just if people think he's the real deal, he's not. He's a
right. I'm glad we're getting this cleared up.
It's like Tom Waits. Have you heard Tom Waits talk? He's got a really soft, gentle voice like that.
Really?
That's his normal voice.
Oh, but when he's on, he's kind of sounds like he's vomiting.
I did just make that bit up.
Or Marilyn Manson. He was a music journalist, wasn't he?
Oh, is that right?
And he kept saying to everyone, "Oh, your act's rubbish. That heavy metal band, they're rubbish." And in the end, someone turned around to him and said, "Well, if you're so smart, you do it." So he went, "All right then."
And he sort of did.
And he kind of did,
yeah, massively,
rather successfully, yeah.
Yeah, I know, that's brilliant. I did a Marilyn Manson remix once.
Did you?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was now, but it was. I remember doing something. I think I played a Lieutenant Pigeon style snare pattern on it, something like that. Anyway,
so you're talking about volume of Glastonbury.
Yeah,
it's so quiet nowadays.
Well, you know what? I've got a theory about this. Sorry, someone else will get a look in a minute. I've got a theory about this, and that is that when they went from one big festival with a big PA that just pointed in one direction, so you could listen to the band from the market or wherever you were, it was great and it had a vibe. But then they changed it to all these little separate arenas where the sound had to be focused in a different. It actually ruined the idea of the festival for me because it meant that the only way you could hear that stuff is by going down these tiny little kind of funnels into the arenas, which means repeatedly I've been since it became an arena and thought I'll go and see them, started and then just thought I can't be bothered, I'm never going to get there.
I think I know what happened actually.
Do you?
My brother Adam Adamski played Glastonbury in 1990 and I did the front of house sound.
Ooh.
And somebody stood next to me and they had one of those what are those white things called with the red lights that go up and down, like Gallien-Kruger or Grillian-Kruger, something or another?
Gallien-Kruger.
No, it's the sound.
Oh, is it a traffic light system?
Spectrum analyzer thing.
Oh, God.
White,
really?
and it's a spectrum analyzer.
It's all your fault, is it? Because you turned it up too loud?
No, not that I turned it up too loud. They basically said to me, that thing is measuring how much output you're putting off this system. If you go over 90 dB, there's a policeman up on top of the hill with a dB meter, and if you go over, we're going to cut the PA off. So I basically sat it on exactly 90 dB at whatever the distance was for the whole show, and kind of managed to compress everything and keep it within that kind of thing and make it loud enough. But basically, they sound policed the whole thing and shut down PAs that went over. So that was what happened.
I blame the rave scene, because it never used to be like that.
It used to be, yeah. That's a good point. But I mean, like at Glastonbury now, you go and watch like the main stage, the pyramid stage as it's called, and if there's a wind, forget about it. I mean, you just hear this kind of phasey, weak, awful sound. And even down the front, I went down the front. I was really close to the front in like the kind of maybe one of the best places you could be for the sound. And I whispered to my friend, "You shouldn't be able to hear me." And he whispered back, "I know." And it was like...
That's really, really bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Dave, you been to Glastonbury?
Yeah, not for years. I was put on the guest list. We've been on the guest list a couple of years, but I couldn't go. I didn't go. I won't be going this year. I'm going to the Citroen DS rally. I chose that instead.
I can't say I blame you. I've
No, no, go on. Sorry.
I was trying to get in on because Rich Hilton's playing there on Saturday. As I said, well, I think it's Saturday, and I was trying to get a guest list, but there were no guest lists for the band, unfortunately. So, boo.
Yeah, apparently, friends playing. Well, he's working with a rather large band who's playing at Glastonbury, and they didn't get any guest list. So it's kind of, they've really cut it back.
Well, I think, I mean, I can understand why, somehow that might happen to it. Because, I mean, the logistics, because now they've got they're expecting nearly 200,000 people this year. When I used to work there, it was around about the 60,000 mark.
That was the official tickets, though, wasn't it? I mean, a lot.
Well, no. Have you seen the stage? Have you seen the? There was a brilliant documentary recently, and it was all kind of the evolution of the fence, and now it's basically like the Berlin Wall with a kind of bit in the middle. They send galloping horses between to stop people climbing over.
I used to climb over the fence all the time to get into that festival back in the 90s. It was a really mad festival back in those days because, like, what happened in Britain, especially in the early 90s, when the rave scene had really kind of kicked off big time, rave had really reached out into the provinces, and it was really, all people started getting into rave. All the kind of, they were builders and, real working class kind of types who would never in a million years go to a festival. They were all going to Glastonbury, and everyone was going to Glastonbury, and like hardly anyone was paying to go to Glastonbury, and used to sort of be able to jump over the fence. And I remember, you're trying to find a spot to get over the fence, and you're having a little patrol around trying to work out what the situation is. And
allegedly.
Allegedly. And find a little bit. Okay, let's do it. And some and typically Scousers, young Scousers would be walking around going, "All right, there, whack, do you want to, 10 quid for a go of our ladder? 10 quid, go over our ladder." And you go like, no, it's all right, we start getting over, and we bunking everyone up over the, chuck all the bags over. A couple of us sat on the top of the fence, reaching down, trying to lift the last person up, and we're really struggling. And this Scouser walks past and goes, "Oh, mate, just give us a bunk up." He goes, "5 quid for a bunk up, mate, 5."
It's a cottage industry, isn't it? Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's lots of brilliant Glastonbury stories. I mean, I did have some video to play, but I suspect if I play it, it will get... There's a really good documentary I watched on BBC, and it was just really long, and it was about the evolution of the whole thing from the beginning, with Michael Levis just talking about how they're going through the sort of phase when the travellers were allowed on site, which was around the time that I was going there, and then how they changed that, and then how they bring the fence in, and all these kind of concessions to this larger, as it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And he just said, it's interesting, and he seems like such a lovely bloke, actually. So yeah, but festivals, marvellous. I was going to actually sort of try and canvass a few festival tales, but we seem to have got them there, so that's actually we're pretty sorted. So I did want to go. I'd love to go for the day. The idea of taking a 9-year-old daughter to a place where there are 200,000 really out of it people.
No, I tell you what. Nowadays, Glastonbury is like, it's safe as you like.
It's like a giant adventure playground.
Yeah, I mean, back in the 90s, like when I was talking about it, it was just like sheer anarchy, and it was murders and robberies, and the crime rate was ridiculous. My friend, for instance, he was sleeping in his tent and he had his boots stolen off his feet when he slept. I mean, it was just insanity back in the day,
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Did you see that? Did you see that Daily Mash thing recently, where it's kids think that music gets in the way of corporate sponsorship at festivals? They'd far rather be in a field with a load of branding. Music's just kind of in the way. That made me laugh.
Yeah, there were some funny shots in this documentary where they're kind of, there's the sort of NatWest cash point and this sort of this stuff, and it's just getting kind of crazy.
But the whole glamping thing, that's a little bit suspect, isn't it? You can go to Glastonbury and you can go to these big festivals and you can pay to go glamping, which is glamorous camping.
I think that'd be great. I'd do it.
I want to do that.
You want to do that? But it's just like, it's like about 750 quid.
Yeah, it is expensive.
It's a lot of money. And then you
Tina did it last year, and she went and stayed in a yurt village, and she said it was really gorgeous. She just kind of arrived, and they helped her take her stuff.
Oh, that sounds good.
It's the class divide, though, isn't it? In festivals, it's like the haves and the have-nots. Like the people in their nice little private little kind of like yurty camping bit, and they got their own toilets.
So where would you rather be if you were staying at Glastonbury? In a field or in a backstage area with secure camping and a nice toilet?
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. I rest my case.
Like if you've got kids, I think it's kind of,
Yeah, I was going to say, because
doing it with kids because it's quieter and you don't have to putting up a tent when you've got two young children hanging off you going, Dad, I want this, Dad, I want that, Dad, I want that. It's just impossible. I mean, trust me, it takes hours.
Yeah, no, I've done that before. I went last time I saw Rich play, and at Chic played at WOMAD, and I was late because I'd spent probably an hour and 3/4 carrying the myriad of sort of kitchen sink type kind of accessories across from the field, and I finally got there and I did my back in, but that was it. But yeah, I was going to say, when I was going to Glastonbury, children of the age of my daughter were selling drugs. I mean, they would be all over the place, and that was pretty grim actually.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy, wasn't it? People used to stand on like a kind of bucket with a loud hailer and so get your drugs here and it's not like that now. It isn't like that now.
It certainly isn't like that now. But yes, if you're going, good on you, and if you're working there, good on you too. And I hope you have a good time and do everything you want to do. It is a great place to work. There is that, because it's, especially, well, hopefully if it's not going to be muddy, but if it is muddy, it's sort of, you get the real sort of, it's almost like a wartime spirit, it's, and it's quite, but it's just exhausting.
But, like Glastonbury, in the past, there used to be all these rumours in Glastonbury because you would really be cut off from civilization as we knew it when you'd be there. But of course now with mobile phones, you're very kind of connected. And when you go there now, everyone's on their phones and they're tweeting and their Facebook updates or, every few minutes it seems. And like in the past, there used to be these great rumors that used to go around and people would go, have you heard the news? Blah, 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 or whatever. And it'd be the most ridiculous kind of, I remember like they were saying, Saddam Hussein's been arrested. That was one of the stories when I was there. He's been arrested sort of filthy beast style around a pool in Marbella in southern Spain, and that's what everybody was believing. And this is back in the 90s, and you couldn't disprove it. But then I remember back in 2009 at Glastonbury when Michael Jackson died. He died during Glastonbury Festival. I think it was on the Thursday night, just when the festival began. And I was in a bar and some guy said, "Have you heard the news? Michael Jackson's died." And I was like, "Really?" No, thinking it was a Glastonbury live, but of course everybody's there sort of showing your mobile phones going, look.
Online, yeah.
And then about 5 minutes later, I saw someone wearing a T-shirt. I was at Glastonbury when Michael Jackson died.
Oh, Jesus. Wow, that's enterprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was he a Scouser? I think actually that was a terrible thing to say, but it just followed. It was following on from the joke. I'm gonna have to do something about this. Your camera looks way better than mine. I'm sort of all blurry and wobbly.
No, it's
really.
That's how you look in real life, Nick.
Oh, is it? Excellent. Now I know. Well, I should probably do the ad now because, of course, this podcast is actually sponsored by somebody. It's Isotope, and they've got a message that they would like to introduce you, and that is the factor. that Trash 2 is in the house. Of course, Trash 2, dual stage, multi-band distortion, versatile distortion capabilities, subtle, warm and extreme, but it's beyond distortion as well. You've got new sonic dimensions with screaming, vowel formant capable dual filters, delay, dynamic modules, convolution engine, let your sound inhabit any space or object. I think that's something that's lesser known about it. Load impulses and morph your audio with Trash 2's convolution engine. Download a free demo from isotope.com/trash, and that's 10-day free demo. It lasts, works perfectly well. There's also 2 new expansion packs, all new classic textures and a more extreme expansion pack. And as far as I recall, there was also the ability to kind of tone it down and have some more subtle effects to kind of get more sort of warm mastering type effects, and that's also well worth exploring. Trash 2 is on sale for $149, register price $249 through June the 26th. So that's today, isn't it? So if you're quick, you might get it. Trash customers could log in and get their account special upgrade pricing. So once again, thank you very much. Oops, no, that's that one. To Isotope for their sponsorship of the show. isotope.com/trash. And as I didn't last week, I'm going to try and run the competition this week. So leave in the comments your favourite thing and way of distorting electronic type sounds, so either pianos, keyboards, that kind of thing, or synthesizers. What is it? And we'll pick one, and they will be bestowed with an Isotope Trash 2 fully working free copy, courtesy of Isotope. So once again, we thank them very much for their show sponsorship. Right, that was festivals then. This was interesting. This is Depeche on the Road. I know not everybody's a big fan of Depeche Mode, but I've got this. This Access posted this video, which was them doing, showing what they were using live, which was, of course,
my name's Ben
a load of
Adams.
Access
I'm the
equipment. He sort of glosses over everything. Ben's the keyboard tech.
Delta Machine Tour.
This is in Hamburg.
I'll take you to the stage and I'll show you the keyboard.
There's it looks like an Indigo in the background there. So it's a big stadium in, I think it was in Hamburg in last couple of weeks.
Andrew Fletcher's position. He has 2 controller keyboards that are linked to my racks there.
Which we won't mention what they are.
As you can see here, we have the Virus Indigo, the smaller version.
Anyway, I wasn't really, but the point of this ad, sorry, I said ad, that was a bit of a Freudian slip because it was a bit. The point of this video for me was, because we've seen all these rehearsal things where they're just playing all these beautiful old synthesizers and kind of making these great sounds, and there was a couple of I don't know where they were rehearsing, but it had a massive panorama picture window. It's like the top of a skyscraper. Just looked amazing, and it was a really actually pretty good performance. And they were doing the whole thing live, and they were playing sort of Monopoly, MS-20, all of those things. And I wondered, because we must have all been through this scenario where we've created music on these beautiful old synthesizers and then had to take it to a live scenario. What is that decision process? Because you have to kind of make a choice. I'm not going to take this, or I am going to take it. And if I'm not going to take it, what is it that I can use instead of that? I'm going to go to you first, Dave, because I'm sure you must have done this for people. And you can't just plug your own products.
Yes, I have, and I can't think of anybody else. Oh, Omnisphere, actually. Used Omnisphere. Did some stuff on that War of the Worlds theatrical production thing, the big touring thing with the hologram of Richard Burton and all that kind of stuff. But that was actually, weirdly enough, mostly old string machines, ARP Odyssey. There was a CS80 in it, and all of that kind of stuff. So no, that's kind of my bag, really. People call me and go, how do I get this old sound on this kind of new piece of software? And I go, leave it with me, I can do that. Ultravox is another one. I help them quite a lot.
But there is I wonder what the cutoff point is. When do you think, no, I'm not taking that, or I am, that sound is so important, I have to put it to tape, or I've got to take it with me, or I've got, that's there must be this point, because you look at guitarists and they take their vintage stuff on the road all the time, and because they look pretty cool with it, they're doing their posturing. How come it's not the same for a synthesizer? Is it just because they're just so much more rare or fragile, I suppose?
Yeah, I normally advise people. The cut-off point is how much you want to keep that gear alive forever. Gaz can probably tell you a good vocoder story, because Underworld take their VP330 on the road, and we've tried the Roland is it XT synth rack thing. I tried getting that with the extra card for Rick, and that was a kind of close contender for a while.
Yeah.
And then there's, you know, Rick's very kind of particular. For him, it was only the real thing would really do.
Right.
So that's kind of flight case, stood slightly off stage. Carl then triggers the guitar via a MIDI input, triggers the vocoder via a MIDI input, and obviously that then affects his vocals.
They do take a second spare as well.
Yeah, and that was interesting that you said obviously it changed on this tour to different vocoder, because in a way when Carl was calling, kind of going, is this a good idea? I was kind of, yes, it's a good idea. Use something more modern and robust. Famous last words.
Yeah, we had no end of vocoder issues on the tour for a whole multitude of reasons, really. Whereas like those old Rolands, you know, they've actually been incredibly reliable. I think. Well, I say they've been reliable. They have had problems with them, but different kind of problems. We had all sorts of strange things happening. There was definitely, it became like a running joke about the vocoder issues at, you know, every sound check. You know, we'd sort of sound check the band in 10 minutes and then spend the next 2 hours getting the vocoder working.
Yeah, that sounds like a bit of a nightmare. Mark, I'm guessing you must have had to go through this as well to a degree. I mean, certain amounts of technology you can take and certain you don't. But there's that whole decision process that goes through kind of, I mean, obviously with Depeche Mode, they probably could afford to take all of that stuff. But, I mean, clearly for them, the virus stuff works, or they've got an excellent programmer that can just kind of get them where they need to go with it.
It's an invention process, and there's also a lot of psychology involved in it, I think. So in terms of like getting backing tracks together, I was very much in charge of that with the Duran thing, to make sure that I basically got those sounds happening in the backing tracks. But as far as synths is concerned, Nick Rhodes absolutely refused to have anything out there apart from his Jupiter 8, and I tried loads and loads and loads of different ways to get him to use something different. He just wouldn't. And the funny thing about that video we just watched is I know Ben Adams, because one of the times when I threw a bit of a tizzy and left that Duran gig, Ben took over from me, and I have to say that Ben looks a hell of a lot less stressed out doing that gig than he did doing Duran.
Well, no Jupiter 8s, I guess. They've just gone for the Route 1.
They used the Imp.
They used the Imposter.
Yeah, God. In fact, it's weird because John was having a bit of a to-do with some bloke on a forum. God, it's his own fault for going to forums. But I said, right, I'm going to dig this out. So I've got an old kind of brochure thing, and it's like the old boys there using, and it's got, Imposter and blah, blah, blah. Which is funny because when I watched that thing, I was like, it's just like an advert for bloody Access. I suppose it was done by them.
Well,
anyway.
it was Tom Rent, who's a great guy.
But it didn't tell you anything. It didn't kind of tell you anything.
It was a little bit brand protected. It's much better just to have everything out there and then just go, oh yeah, and we use these, they're great. You know, don't.
Do you want to hear the coolest bit of trivia about Depeche Mode?
Yes, please.
Okay, 70s sci-fi Jerry Anderson TV program UFO, yeah?
The Ace theme.
Do you remember the captain of the submarine, Captain Carlin?
No.
Okay, well then the sort of string vest type thing. Anyway, that is their keyboard player Peter Gordino's dad, and his name was also Peter Gordino. There you go.
Wow.
Now that is cooler than that video.
That's fantastically trivial and excellent. But their tour is bonkers. I've got some the dates here. Let's have a look. I mean, you've been on tours of this sort of magnitude. They've got a day off tonight, but tomorrow they're in Borlage at a festival in Sweden. Then they're in Sweden, Stockholm on the 27th. Oh, they've got 2 gigs in Sweden. So they're playing the Sweden festival, a festival gig in the afternoon perhaps, and then I think that got to be right. And then Kiev, Ukraine, Germany, Belgium, Switzerland, Spain, France, Italy, Czech Republic. God, we're still only in July. And then then they go to America in August.
So that throws something up for a start then, because there's no way you can do shows like that back to back without having duplicate rigs, because you wouldn't get the rigs there in time. Not to get
You think they're doing a piggyback
through customs and through shipping and all that kind of. You know, you get the band on a plane, and you can get the band on a plane to all sorts of different places fairly quick. But in terms of the turnaround on putting stuff on planes and getting stuff from place to place, there's going to be times there where they're going to need duplicate rigs, definitely. So if you're taking old gear on the road, how do you duplicate it and have 2 lots of it?
Yeah, that's a bit. When you need 2 lots because you need a spare rather than a duplicate, as it were. So then you need 4.
Yeah, you do need 4. Yeah, you do need 4.
And then
You
shipping
have
becomes an issue.
You have your A setup, which is the main one that goes around with you, which does have duplicates in it. And then you have your B setup. Nick's got like 3 or 4 Jupiter A's. And the problem with that is that when...
Yeah, they all sound different as well, I expect.
I used to take sounds from one and put them in the other one. He'd go, "What have you done to it?" And I'd be like, I just did a tape transfer from this one to that one." And he was like, "Well, did you change any of the sounds?" I'm like, "No." And it's just the machine sounds totally different. His original one seems to sound different to any of the replacement ones.
It's interesting. I mean, people in the chat room obviously saying that, Jar takes the whole lot on the road. But, I mean, can you imagine being Jar's tech? I mean, that would be a stressful job.
Ah, I know him. He was he helped us on Popeye on the opera last year.
A bit of light relief.
Jean-Philippe Chavin, his name is. Yeah, nice guy. But
did you talk to him about his Jar works, or was it?
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, he was quite guarded. He wasn't actually. He didn't actually.
I think Jean-Michel Jarre should do a reggae covers band. Then he can do Jar I and I and all things like that, couldn't he?
Oh, brilliant.
Sorry about that. I just came to me suddenly. I probably should have kept it in rather than just blurted it out.
Maybe he hasn't done it because he hasn't got a space echo. That's like the only thing he hasn't got.
He can't get that hi-hat sound. Yeah, it's just missing the Great British Spring for the rim shot. Well, anyway, that was Depeche on the road. You can go and see them, I'm sure, wherever you like, because they're everywhere for like the next 5 years or so. They just seem to be touring incessantly. And this does link into another video, and this again is a bit salesy, but you'll kind of get my thread in a sec.
So, Dave, tell us about yourself. Tell us about the band.
We're Oasis UK. We're an Oasis tribute band, tour in England. We play 2 or 3 times a week in venues from 50 capacity to 500. We're serious about it. We all love Oasis, and we take pride in the sound. We use the same amps, same guitars. We decorate the stage. We have a lot of projector video footage going during the show. So
I'll forward it a bit. Basically, what transpires is they use Presonus. There we go, backstage, and they just have it at the side of the stage.
We were going out,
and that guy basically just
31
tweaks the mix and all the monitors from his iPad.
And we had
which seems like a fabulous. I mean, we know that this is possible and it's all been done, but it just got me thinking with the kind of thought about where things are going in terms of touring cost and footprint of the gear and all that kind of thing. Our front of house sound is surely going to be obsolete pretty soon. You get the keyboard tech will run it, or somebody who's a keyboard tech and can do front house, or the monitor guy, or whatever. So that that's going to save you a fortune on the length of a tour, wouldn't you say? I don't know. Got any thoughts on that, Mark? You picked the phone up there.
Jobs.
You could do both those jobs.
Yeah, I'm a good key tech and I'm a good front of house sound man, so I could definitely cover both. In fact, you kind of spun it back into Glastonbury, because when Adam did Glastonbury, I was his key tech and his front of house sound man, and I was out the front of house doing front of house sound, and something went wrong and I had to run through the crowd.
That's where it falls down a bit.
Fix this keyboard issue and then go back out to front of house, and it was a long way. A couple of songs till I got there and back.
That's where that kind of falls down a little bit, I suppose. That's the problem. But I mean, really, there's no reason. I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate. Why do you need a front of house person if you can automate all of this stuff and trigger it off? Dave?
I've got a really good story. I was at a party at the week. Jem Godfrey came here on Saturday and recorded, and then we went off to a party, which was hilarious in itself because that was kind of full of music industry types, Jeff Downs and all those people. Anyway, so I'm there with Andy Shillito, who obviously has been on the show a few times, and he tells me a story. And he says that he got asked to help out an unsigned band by their manager at their showcase gig to do front of house. So he goes and he sets up, and he said it was a really horrible venue, and you had to kind of wrestle with it during sound check, and then when it started to fill up, he was kind of readjusting. So the band kick off, and he's wrestling with it for the first couple of numbers, and he gets it banged into shape, and then he goes over to the manager and he says, "Are you happy?" And the manager says, "Yep, it sounds great." And then Andy says to him, and this is the difference, this is why we need smart arse front of house people. He says, who are the most important people in this room? And the guy points to a load of grey-haired people with glasses over in the corner. So Andy walks over behind them and he stands behind, and there's a pillar behind them. So he's getting a lot of reflections and stuff off of them. So he goes back to the desk and he tweaks it accordingly so that it sounds great in their space. 3 days later, he gets a call. The band have been signed thanks to that gig. Thank you very much. Yay! That's a really brilliant reason.
That is a really brilliant reason, and you know that one. What those gigs are kind of few and far between, but that's okay. I'll take that as a positive then. Mark, you seem ready to.
So what would make that really cool is instead of having to go back to the desk, he could have stood behind them with his iPad and then tweaked it so that he got the sound absolutely spot on for them, and then he wouldn't have had to have gone back, would he?
Well, there's that. That's good. Touche. Very good.
Well, I mean, on the tour I've been doing with Carl, we've been fortunate to have John Newsham doing our front of house, and John he's he's got an amazing CV. He started off with Steve Hillage and in the 70s, and then went on to work with Pink Floyd and Iron Maiden in the 80s doing front of house. So he's worked really, really so much stuff. He's been with Underworld for a long time, hasn't he, Dave? I think John's been
since the very early days.
Since the early days, and his expertise and experience has just been absolutely phenomenal, really, to be honest. And we've been playing in all sorts of odd places on this tour, churches and large area, big, all sorts of different sizes, shapes and sizes. And I don't know how you could automate that process. I mean,
well, you could. I mean, you could
by using
just pulse it the room, have decent mics. Do a kind of pink noise generation. I mean, that will get you some way towards it. Not everywhere.
No,
admittedly.
It's true. But I mean, then when we're having all sorts of technical issues or all sorts of things, John would just be there, and his expertise would come in useful time and time again, and it'd be unthinkable not to have him on that tour. Just having to rely on the technology working.
I suppose the thing I'm thinking also is the fact that it's the footprint in front of house, because we went to see Goldfrapp at the weekend. They played on Sunday night in Bristol. It's a great gig, really enjoyed it. Bumped into Daniel Miller there from Mute, and he said, I'm still listening to the podcast, so that was good. He's one confirmed listener for sure. But they had a little enclosure with Avid Live venue or whatever it was, one of those. But it seemed to me, there was a lot of tweaking go, but a lot of that stuff can now be done in pre-production. So in some ways, you need to have a dedicated person, because of the savings that you make by not having that enclosure.
Well, as I say, I understand what you're saying, but the thought of it would be quite frightening, I think.
Also, engineers know those rooms, don't they? They get to know those rooms over the years, so it's pretty rare that an experienced engineer will have to walk into a room and go, I've really got to fight with this. They'll generally know exactly what they're dealing with, and from a band's perspective, that's kind of absolutely vital, that you can kind of hand over the trust to somebody else, knowing full well that they're going to do it.
But then again, I mean, okay, I am still playing devil's advocate, so you've still got two. So you've got your monitor engineer and a front of house engineer. There's going to come a point where, the costs will be cut. I'm sure.
The monitor guy's got to go.
You think?
They're generally irritating.
I don't think you can get rid of the monitor. They are irritating, but you can't get rid of the monitor guy. I mean, because they're dealing on an individual basis with each member of the band, and that person has to meet as many. If there's 9 people in the band, they have to meet 9 people's needs and get it. They're doing 9 mixes, aren't they, or 5
at
mixes,
least, yeah.
Depending on how many people are in the band. I think they're more important than the front of house sound guy. Personally, I mean, the front of house sound can go wrong, but if the monitor mix goes wrong, then the band falls apart, and it's going to sound shit anyway, isn't it?
I should delegate that to the tech.
What, the front of house should go to the tech, or the monitor?
No, monitor should go to the tech.
Ooh. Well, I suppose that's a point, because if you think about it, when there's no playing in between songs where you need to change the guitar, you're not having to do any mixing, are you?
That's what we've been doing on this tour. We've been, our tech's been doing our monitors, and it's been, he's been great. So it's he's been able, mind you, he can uber multitask though. So he's, I think you need a particular. I think
you're saying each of your individual techs does your mix.
No, the one monitor guy. That one of the techs does the monitors as well.
Yeah.
At the all of the monitors at the same time.
Yeah.
While building the stage.
I thought you were saying like your drum tech does the drum monitors, the keyboard tech does the keyboard monitors, the guitar.
There's a thought. You can have an iPad each, couldn't
monitors.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that could get. Well, I don't know. That might work, I suppose. But
we did in the initial rehearsal stages for the Carl Hyde thing. We had this big Roland system arrive in the rehearsals for us to try out, which was.
The Ethernet thing, yes.
The Ethernet thing, and it's quite complex, and you can do a 16-channel mix yourself, and you can EQ each of the feeds independently. Yeah. It's got like microphones built in, so you can feed in some ambience into your headphones, and it was and I was really kind of thinking, ooh, brilliant, because it was appealing to me because I like my techie stuff, and just being able to dial in my mix and having all that control. But the others in the band were really, they were really against it. They didn't like it, and in fact, Carl. He was detecting like a tiny degree of latency because it was a digital system, and he just felt that little bit of removal from
that's
from his voice and his monitoring.
Behringer do a similar thing for the X32 system, and you can. It's got a little ambient mic you can mix in, and you can compress the whole thing and limit, and it's great fun.
Yeah,
actually.
but that's the thing I'm saying, Nick. For me. Brilliant, because I've got an interest in that area. But other musicians, for instance, Angie Pollock playing keys, she really doesn't like any kind of tech side of things at all. She needs to really concentrate on the playing. She's got enough on her plate. So anything like that is like, oh no, not interested, because it's going to distract her from her playing.
Yeah, maybe so.
And I think you'll find that is quite common with lots of musicians. Well, I have found that anyway. Sort of.
Right. Well, there we go. I just thought it was an interesting kind of observation. But if you're interested, and that was Rodney Orpheus from Presonus who was doing the interview. Presonus Studio Live 1642. They do a 24 as well. The 16 is actually only about £1,500 now. So if you that and a few iPads and wedges. I mean, the other thing that they were saying is, not just the Presonus, but all of these new things. Basically, you're reducing your racks. You don't need a rack of compressors and gates and stuff because it's all in there. So the inevitable march to kind of, basically mixing the gig on your phone, without a front house engineer. Yeah. Certainly for those kind of bands where, it's a jobbing thing rather than a joy. That extra body you've got to take along. Eats into the amount of money that you can make, I suppose. True. Creative limitations, web-controlled analog. I think we'll do. What's the time? Let's do this boom bottle because that's something that Gaz has got something to contribute to as well. So I'm going to press a button and then there will be a video. Probably. Or not. Let's see if there is. Oh, there it is. This is they always seem to come out in the summer. This is the latest lifestyle ad for your latest Bluetooth or wireless speaker. I haven't seen one yet, but there's lots of pretty young things doing things I'd rather be doing. Oh, like that. So if I buy that, my life will end up like this. That's what I might have to buy it just to see if that happens.
Just like an Apple advert.
It is, isn't it? Music control. So this is Bluetooth. It's supposed to be quite loud and pretty cool and all of those things. Anyway, yeah, what's that called? That's the boom bottle, something for the summer, fit in your bike thing, and will make you attractive to the opposite sex by the looks of things as well.
I was going to tell you one story, but that's just made me think of something completely different. Because when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I used to cycle down to the electronics shop, and they had this Sony advert for a Sony cassette recorder, and there was this blonde running down the beach, hand in hand with the guy with the brown jacket with the pointy collar and the big beige corduroy flares. And I was like, I want to be that guy. I want to be running down the beach with that girl. And I think that's fundamentally why I became a sound engineer.
That you can trace it back to that.
Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, that one picture, that Sony advertisement for that cassette recorder with the little clunky kind of control on it.
It was the first, but this whole idea of taking your music with you, which we now have it on our phones and everything, and it being in your earbuds and what have you, which is a totally different experience. It's very insulating, and the idea of having, because we all, when I was growing up, it was boom boxes, and it was like, everybody had like a tape machine with a couple of speakers, or maybe one when you started out, and maybe this is. It feels like we haven't found the device for that to kind of take over for this generation. It's all sort of just fairly crappy speakers in phones, and it's just an irritant rather than a meaningful musical experience.
Which leads us...
Well, Gaz, yeah, because you brought something in, didn't you?
Yeah, I think this thing's really cool, and I just thought I'd like to show it to everybody. It's called a mini rig, and well, this is in its case. If I take it out, it's a speaker, and it's not a wireless speaker, so you do need to connect it with a wire. But what's quite interesting about this is it's got a build quality which you really have to kind of experience. Really, it's like really solid. It's made of sort of aluminium, and it's made in Bristol, funnily enough. And the guys who've made it have got like a background in making PA speakers, and like you can see. If I hold it to the camera there, you can see that the connections for it...
Is that an in and an out?
It's quite clever. It's got a high gain input and a low gain input. And the reason why I thought I'd mention it is quite nice is because for a speaker for like iPad apps, and really what it was like playing with Nave on the iPad. Unless you've got your iPad connected up to your studio monitors... or you've got really good headphones plugged in. When you're playing these synthesizers out of the built-in speaker at the iPad, it's not
a very thrilling experience.
It's not that thrilling, and a lot of the synths sound quite similar out of that. But what's quite nice with a speaker like this is it's kind of got like a heritage, like a PA speaker in a way. It's so loud. You wouldn't believe how loud it is.
Can you just plug guitar straight into it as well?
What I did yesterday was I plugged the output into my iPad, but then I plugged into the iPad with my Apogee Jam and was using it as a rehearsal, and so that all the sound using like an amp simulator on the iPad coming out of here. And it was pretty decent. It's loud, gosh. But what's good about it, because you've got the low gain input as well as the high gain input, if you put in sort of synthesizers and use a lot of resonance and...
I'm going to see if I can get something to plug into it.
Do so, yeah. But if you because it's got you just feel like you've got a lot of headroom, and it's got a battery built into it, and it lasts for 60 hours or 50 to 60 hours on a single charge. So I was like, this is a great touring speaker. You can...
Good bottom end?
It's not that great. It's okay. It's 100 hertz pretty much. But it has got an analog limiter built into it as well, which is quite nice. So it just... it's rather than... Most of these speakers... As soon as you put any volume into them, they just crap out, they just can't handle it. But this seems to have a really decent amount of headroom, and it's loud. For bottom end, I was kind of putting it in the corner a little bit just to sort of get a bit of a bass tip up. But they're actually I was lucky enough. I went to the Mini Rigs sort of HQ yesterday, and I was lucky enough to try out the new subwoofer that they've got coming out in August. And alongside this, it was just... it was astonishing. It sounded like a PA, but, it sounded really good. Are you in the line in there, Nick?
What's the damage?
This, about £85.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So comparable with this Boombolt thing then, really.
It is, but, when you see what these things... They're made... I don't know. It's like it's just got much more. It's got no volume on it.
So is that the high gain or the low gain?
We're in high gain at the moment. Low gain at the moment.
Get the high gain then, you hold it out to the speaker.
Right.
It's quite satisfyingly.
Yeah, it's just like a proper speaker. Yeah,
it does actually sound quite beefy, I must say.
Yeah,
that was very impromptu and under rehearsed.
But
a demonstration.
part of the reason I got it was for my OP1, really, just to sort of get a little bit more kind of well, for an OP1 and for a and for my iPad. But what's quite cool though is because it's mono speaker, but it's got a high gain and a low gain input. But if you plug in into one and then take a lead out of another one, you can link it to another one and it'll do stereo.
How long does the battery last?
Yeah, 60 hours, 50 to 60 hours.
Wow! On a charge, or
on a single charge. Yeah,
that's neat.
Yeah, and it's kind of got it's got an LED light that kind of goes through different color phases to give you a battery life indicator.
You can never have too many lights, especially on something inert like a speaker. But it raises an interesting question. I mean, what do you just stick to your headphones and your buds? I mean, I know Dave, you got your Bose. I mean, do you actually bother with anything external, or do you just only worry about it in the when you're in the privacy of your own studio?
No, I mean, when I go on holiday, I've got a little what's that thing called? It's like a sound dock. Dude, I'm like a Bose fanatic, aren't I? Which I know loads of people disagree with, but no, I like that little sound dock thing. It's just got batteries. But
is it a wave? Is it like a wave?
No, it's not that kind of super mega flashy radio. It's just a kind of flat surface thing. It's a couple of £100, but it's got a decent bottom end, because that's actually what drives me nuts when I go away. And you kind of, the missus is like, "Oh, can we have some music on while you're doing the barbecue in the sun?" And I'm like, and all you can hear is, and you're just like, I just want to throw it in the pool. Do you know what I mean?
Just those things, yeah. I can see the thing you mean. Yep.
Whereas I quite like this little boom bottle thing, apart from that nauseating advert. I quite like this because it's just like, I figure that in 10 years' time I'm going to have no high frequency hearing anyway, so I can just kind of sit on this maybe and listen to my music through my bottom. It's going to be like that. What was that film? Oh, God. With the DJ who loses his hearing. It's all gone Pete Tong. It'll be like that. That's what I'll be like.
Well, that's something to look forward to, eh, then? Yeah. You need something a bit more... maybe they do a larger bottle for the elder gentleman.
I was hoping for a smaller bottle.
Oh. Right, okay. I'm gonna hijack it. Mark, you wanted to come in there. Please, tone it up.
I'm so shocked I can't remember what I was going to say. I mean, the one thing that doesn't appeal to me with that thing Gaz is waving around is the wires. I want something that doesn't have wires.
Interesting. One thing in the HQ yesterday, they were showing me some prototypes of some wireless things, and
well, I want it to go over Wi-Fi. It needs to be able to create itself as an AirPlay unit.
Well, I mean, those sort of things
better quality than Bluetooth.
It's just, again, if you want to use it
latency,
for any musical, it's the latency will always kill it. I mean, this is what I decided in the end. I've tried everything virtually now to try to get that low latency over wireless, and just forget about it. It's just, unless there's some other thing happen right now. I mean, Bluetooth 4, I thought that was going to have lower latency, but Bluetooth 4's main kind of selling point is it's very low power
right, okay.
rather than low latency.
I want to say, I remembered now what I was going to say. I was playing with a Jawbone in Dixon's. And I recommend this, actually. This is good fun. I think anybody who's listening to this podcast who's got an iPhone needs to go and do this, because it's really good fun. You take your iPhone and you fill it up with a whole load of really strange and bewildering sounds. And then go into Dixon's, and I did this. I docked my iPhone to the Jawbone in Dixon's. And those things are like a little brick. It's unbelievably loud speaker. But the thing is, once you've docked to Bluetooth, you can then walk away. So you walk maybe 100 yards across the store, and then you just start playing really strange things, like people soaring through wood and stuff. Everyone's like turning around going, what is that? But I found that I got all the way to the checkout, and I was playing sign sweeps through it. Like, the whole store was like turning around going, what is that? And then my partner turned around to me and she said, Mark, is that you? And I was like, oh.
Busted. So does that also, when you're paired, you can't be kicked off? So if you paired with it, that'd be quite funny. Unless they switch it off, you could only...
I don't know about that, actually. I mean, I don't think anybody had really kind of worked out what was going on. It was just like the Jawbone was playing up, making these strange sounds.
I'm liking the idea. I'm liking the idea of this kind of guerrilla Bluetooth subversive sounds. That's brilliant. I like that.
Yeah, it was fun. Really good fun.
Well, when I tried out the mini rig was actually in Barcelona Airport last week. One of the techs had one and was showing it to me, and I plugged the OP1 into it, and he was really wanting to show me how loud it goes. And honestly, it's astonishingly loud when you plug it in. And so I was doing all this really crazy stuff. And it was so loud. And these men came running, because it was in the airport. They came running to see what, some security guys. And it was just, it was so funny, because it was just like the most evil. I mean, that OP1 can make the most evil noises.
That's funny, actually. There are some great. You could do some great things. There's all sorts of things you could play over a Bluetooth speaker in a public space that you shouldn't. So yeah, that'd be an interesting one.
I want to go and do some. I want to go do some of that now, Mark.
It's like a candid. Yeah, I think that's a great. I think that's.
Yeah.
There's got to be a show title in there somewhere.
I think recording announcements would be good. Ding dong. Would
Beyonce please make herself known? We know you're in here.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Public address announcement. Yeah. That's brilliant. You could get. Who was that guy who used to phone? He wore dreads, but he was a very posh English guy. Or not wore dreads, had dreads.
Victor Louis Smith.
Victor Louis Smith used to do that. He used to play people up and sort of Haile Selassie.
Yeah.
And could you and could you say I'm at Babylon and Ting, and all that kind of stuff. Just brilliant kind of jolly japes. Gosh, it feels like we might be at a kind of a good point. Unless Is there anything else I want to cover here?
I did like that 5 records. That was a great.
Oh, the 5 records. All right, let's do a bit of that then. I've got this is another thing. Creative limitations. It seemed to be because we've been running this series ourselves called Limitators, which is by a guy called Ian Affleck. He wrote an introduction a couple of weeks ago, and then we ran his first article where he just basically made a tune out of sine waves. I'm going to have to try and dig that out. But in the meantime, this video also came out, which was kind of fun. So I'll see if we can play this. I can't remember which one it was. It's not that one.
You see how we go?
It's not that one.
So
not that one. Not that one either. Must be this one. I haven't got it. So I really can't play it. I thought I had it put in the system. That was a bit irritating and stupid of me. Basically, it was what they called. They were called Dublab, and they made a really kind of funky half-hour program where they joined up with 3 DJs, LA DJs, Daedalus, J-Rock, and Nobody. They're called, and basically they gave them $5, and they could buy 5 records in the thrift store, and they could then they could make tunes on just using those the vinyl. They couldn't have any samples. They could cut it up. They could do all sorts of things, but they couldn't have any other sound sources. And at the end of it, they made their own vinyl, and they were all given a copy. And they had to go back into the record stores and leave copies in all of the bins, so that they would then that recycle video. That was just a really neat idea, and I'm sadly extremely embarrassed to have not had that video up there. I'll see if I can find it now, but I'm going to have to. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I can play it. I'm sure I can play something. What if you talk amongst yourselves? I'll see if I can find all the things that I didn't actually have lined up that I thought I was going to have lined up. There was something else I was going to go and get as well.
So they could use whatever techniques, they could use whatever software they want, so long as they only just sampled those records.
That's right.
One of the guys had like a DJ-70. Do you remember those Roland DJ-70 things?
Yeah, I like those.
They were great.
A little Vicky scratch thing, didn't it?
Mm. Yeah, very impressive.
It was interesting to see them doing it in very, very different ways, actually.
Yeah, it was a bit rambling. I thought it could have been a bit more, finely edited, as it were. But it was a great. They're very charismatic individuals, and I really enjoyed watching what they did. I'm just going to find this article by Ian Affleck as well. You carry on. There.
You had to get past the whole hipster vibe.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of man bagging going on there, wasn't there?
As soon as I got past that, I was
like, here we go.
This is really cool.
I think I can play a bit of this. This is on playing on Vimeo, and this is so if I just. I'll actually turn it on. Great graphics, I must say. They did a brilliant bit. So they basically go to all these record shops, dig it out,
music,
and they're all sort of very dryly witty. All I seem to be able to do is clip to very dull parts of the movie, but actually there's some really good bits to it. And then at the end, they make a record, and there they go. They're four records all cut into an individual, and then they go and place them in record stores, which I think comes on a bit later on. So they're caught sneaking them back into their record stores. But there's some lovely. I'd like to hear, actually, there were no links to the original to what they did. I think these are some clips from it. Some of them are fairly inventive individuals. Dave, you said you wanted to do this, so help me out of a hole here. I've dug for myself. Say some stuff that's really interesting.
I was just really impressed. You know, we talked about this before, didn't we? The whole recycle thing versus landfill. And I was like, actually, I love all of this kind of, the hipsters call it upcycling, but, you know, it's no different to kind of sampling and stuff like that. And I love the idea of getting these old kind of kitsch records and stuff. It took me, like I say, it did take me a little while to get past the whole hipster vibe, but I just thought it was a brilliant idea. Tread lightly on the earth and use these things again and again and again. And the idea of them putting that album back, or the 4 records back into record stores.
That was very neat.
Never meet again. In fact, it reminded me. It's slightly off topic, but there was an Eagles documentary, and I don't like the Eagles, but I did watch this, and it was quite
good, wasn't it? Yeah.
But I love the idea of the Eagles' greatest hits being like one of the biggest selling albums ever, and they wanted it to open out so that it was a complete. You know, the 4 sections opened at the gatefold, and then it opened out again. So it was this giant poster with the Eagles and the eagle and the cloud and the mountain, and then all the way down to the campfire. But then the record company exec kind of went, "This is stupid. Just glue the thing together." So now you open it, and the eagles are upside down around the campfire, and it just makes no sense at all. I really like that. I thought that was quite cool. I could see a kind of parallel with this. But yeah, no, really cool. Liked it. And actually, the music that came out of it was great.
Well, the only thing I couldn't find was any sort of links to somewhere where we could actually hear it in full, because I would really have liked to have done that. A bit more documentation on it, so we could have a bit more kind of...
I like that J-Rocks thing. And again, you know, we had one of the guys from iMonster on the show ages ago, and they did that, the Gunter, whatever it was, choir, that Daydream in Blue, where they sampled that. And what was funny about that was that then their version of Daydream in Blue got picked up in the US.
Yeah.
And then a load of hip hoppers started sampling that. So then it became like they got flown out
recycled,
to the US to be
not Buddy Rich.
Like Beats people for the hip hop guys, and they were saying, you know, they were like fish out of water. The whole thing, this recycling, everything eating itself. It's quite strange.
It's it's a great idea. I mean, we've talked about limitations before, but this I just want to play a bit of the. Well, maybe actually what I'll do is I'll play the tune that Ian Affleck put together with Sine Waves out, because then we can listen to it, and it'll be our usual play out thing. And I know, Gaz, you kind of up for limitations and what have you. I mean, are you still in love with your OP1 and making stuff on it? Because I know you got burned fairly heavily by losing a load of material.
And then when I was in Australia and on the long flights, I did another, filled up the tape again, and I went to get it out of my bag to show my cousin once I got back to Britain. And as I got it out the bag, I could see the disc was formatting, and the disc formatted, and I don't know how.
Oh, Jesus.
So that's the second time I lost all my work.
That is not good, is it?
No.
What you need to do is, as soon as you've done something, you need to record it analog into your iPhone or something via a lead.
Well, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So that was twice now I've lost my entire work.
Jeez.
But have I fallen out of love with it? No. Have I heck? I was kind of strangely I was kind of pleased in some respects as well, because I thought, okay, I just done that, it's gone, no big deal, next thing. It's sort of, I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this: have you actually got the results of anything that you finished on the OP1? Or is there's a sort of this mystical? It's like the fisherman, the one that got away.
Yeah, but in a way, that's absolutely right. It is. I kind of think, oh, that was pretty cool, and not being able to listen to it means that it's
the memory of it's so much sweeter.
Yeah.
Interesting idea, Mark.
Well, before I say anything about the record thing, while I remember it, I did the opposite of this with my QY20 recently. I sold my QY20 and I took everything that I'd made in the QY20 out and put it into Logic. And I was astonished at how rubbish it was. So my beautiful memory of all this stuff I made in 1993, it was like I pulled it out of the QY20 and I was just like, oh, okay. My songwriting has significantly improved since then. I think that we should do something similar to this. It would be kind of fun, wouldn't it, to go to the Oxfam store and buy 5 records and like see what we could come up with, because we all do similar kind of things.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Maybe we could do an episode of the limitations thing that Ian has done, and based on a similar kind of principle or something along those lines. I feel wholeheartedly stealing the idea might be frowned upon, but yeah, it's a good idea for an exercise, definitely.
I mean, I like that they recycled the artwork as well and made that cover out of all the covers of all the records, didn't they? And kind of span it into one kind of cover, and then there were 4 different records which all had a section of the back on it, and then the best part is putting it back into the system so somebody else could discover it.
Yeah,
that was brilliant. And to design the cover so that somebody would go, wow, what's this? And then to have the golden ticket in there that explains what it's all about and everything. I mean, that's kind of like, that's like taking something like geocaching and plonking it into the middle of the world of music.
Banksy did it, didn't he? Do you remember when Paris Hilton, you know, that great musical behemoth, released her debut album, and Banksy, on the day of the release, had gone in and I'd got people maybe to help him, I don't know, and just put different versions of her album with all new songs on the CD, and he put it in loads of record shops, and it's got all pictures of like an Afghan hound with a blonde wig on who looks remarkably like Paris Hilton, and then those CDs were worth thousands.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh no, that's a shame, isn't it?
Maybe the goal is, and the reason why we can't find links to this, maybe the goal is that somebody in the world needs to now go out in the world and find those 4 records and try and figure out where they are.
There's a novel in there somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great idea. Well, maybe we should look at that, and that's not a bad idea. And I'll pitch something along similar lines to Ian, because what I've done also is create a SoundCloud group where people can have a go at these challenges and upload the tracks that they've done. So I think that could be kind of...
I did a sine wave jam actually, and about long time ago I'd organised it.
What did it taste like?
12:30. No,
I'm sorry, I couldn't help that.
Very bland, really smooth, just
natural.
But we had a jam session, and the restriction was we could only use sine waves. So I thought it was quite interesting that, because I thought, oh yeah, it's a similar idea. Just that
he just used he got a bit more creative with the synthesis. Synthesis. That's what I meant to say.
I like this whole concept of like, back inventing things. I'd invented a motorcycle a while ago called a SIP Excalibur, and I was going to build one and kind of put it in a museum and see if people realised that it had actually been built in this century and not in the late 1800s, and things like that kind of always fascinate me. And then the other thing, stealing backwards. This is like when they put those records back into the record store. There's a covert operation going on there, and I've done this at boot sales, where I take things to boot sales and then put them on people's stalls and then walk off, and that leaves the person with an extra item they didn't know they'd got, and then they've got to try and price it and sell it. So that's kind of an interesting. Or taking things into charity shops and leaving them behind, and not getting caught doing it. When I was a kid, I used to allegedly go shoplifting. And I used to get absolutely terrified before I allegedly pinch something and get this kind of feeling in my stomach. But when you're trying to give stuff away without people knowing that you're giving it to them and leave stuff behind, you get the same feeling. And so that's why it's stealing backwards, because it's like all the kind of fear of like, oh my God,
of getting caught and having to explain.
Yeah.
What do you think you're doing? I wanted to give you this.
I accidentally left it behind. But,
yeah, no, I like the idea of turning it on its head. That's a very interesting idea. Right, well, I think we're probably at the point where we can safely say thank you and goodbye to our guests, and I will play us out with a bit of the Limitators. Maybe I'll do that as we talk, and then that will have a sort of some sort of unique effect. So if I play that now, this is Cartoon Food. I'll just play this. So this is right here. I'll just turn it down, and in the meantime, we'll say thank you very much. We'll go to Dave Spears first. Thank you very much, Dave, for joining us from GForceSoftware.com.
Thank you. Great fun.
And then we'll come back to me, and I'll just actually would like to point out again, this is all done with sine waves. All of these sounds are created like pitch envelopes, distortion. Yeah, there is effects and stuff on it. Well, it's getting going. And we'll also say thank you very much to Mark Tinley for joining us too.
Doing that snare with the sine wave.
Yeah, I think there was a few snares and a bit of distortion to give it that kind of extra white noise stuff. And a very tight envelope. I used Reason, I believe, the synths in Reason. So, yes, thank you, Mark, for joining us as well. I very much appreciate you being here. And again, for previewing your haircut to the world. Thank you, that's very kind. And, of course, we're now going over to Gaz Williams, who's over there he's the highest res amongst us. Oh, that's not Gaz Williams, that's Gaz Williams. I'm terribly sorry.
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much for joining us as well, Gaz.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Good, and now we'll just continue to play out with Ian's track. So thank you very much, everybody.